it's Jess. Welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be my January wrap-up. In the month of January, I read a total of 7 books. Some were excellent, outstanding hits, and then a couple other were massive misses for me. Because I have 7 books to talk about today, let's just go ahead and get started. So the first 2 that I want to talk about, I read on my Kindle. They were both romance novels. One was a contemporary romance and the other a fantasy romance. So the first one that I'm going to talk about is Touch Her and Die, and this is the first book in a series about bodyguards, and I do like the bodyguard trope, but overall this book was a miss for me. I ended up rating it 2 stars. Honestly, if this is a book that you want to read, I wouldn't try to persuade anyone not to read it, because I do think some of the issues that I had with this book were me, and then I think some of the issues I had were a writing thing. But I think that depending on what you like in your books, the writing might not bother you if you don't have the other issues that I personally had with it. I was bored reading this book. So basically you follow this woman named Daisy. She's in her early 20s, and there's something weird going on with her family. Her family has connections to illegal operations. She contacts her best friend, and her best friend also, her family has connections to crime as well, and so that's why she has escaped the family and is living in Scotland now. And so her best friend is hey, I'm gonna help you get out of there, and so she sends the love interest to go help Daisy out of this situation. Basically the love interest works for a bodyguard company, and he is going to try to meet a potential new recruit for their organization. And so she's hey, you're gonna go there anyways, can you please just help get my friend out of the house and get her to her mother's place, because it's all close by. And he's yeah, sure. One of the reasons that I did not like this book was because of the writing. I thought that there was just too much convenience. I do excuse convenience in the romance genre more than in other genres, because to be perfectly honest, when you're reading romance, you're reading for the characters, for the relationships. And I mean, I don't know, maybe you do care about that, but I personally don't. But it was just a lot, and a lot of the plot conflict, not relationship conflict, but plot conflict, felt like it was kind of just blown out of proportion in a way, just to create artificial drama, which never went anywhere. I mean, don't get me wrong, I really love books that are super dramatic, but I tend to like books being dramatic in other genres rather than my romance. And then the other main issue I had with the writing was that I felt like the characters were not developed, and I felt like they were kind of caricatures. This book does employ the grumpy sunshine trope, which I'm gonna be perfectly honest, I don't actually know if I like that in books. I know for a fact I like that in TV and movies, but beyond that, I also know that I do like the sunshine grump trope when it is friends, but I don't know, because I just have not read enough romance, if I like that trope within the romance genre. So if you're watching this and you have a really good, well-developed grumpy sunshine romance that you want to recommend, please let me know, because I do want to find out what tropes I like within the contemporary romance genre, because I'm completely new to that genre. I honestly have no idea what I'm gonna like and dislike yet. Daisy, who is the sunshine character in this book, she is just so naive and over the top. And I think that you can be a sunshine character without being naive, especially when your family literally has a background of organized crime. I feel like you should not be a naive adult. That's just how I feel about that situation. So I just didn't really like the way the characters were written personally. And I also felt like the character development that happened was unrealistic. And it's not that the character trajectory, like when you look at it just purely from a like this character went from point A to point B, it's not that that is unrealistic. It's just that the character development for these particular characters in the amount of time that we're given based off of the external stimulus and internal monologue that we know is happening as the reader, it just felt like these characters could not possibly get from point A to point B so quickly with like just because they're falling in love with each other. It's like falling in love with somebody obviously can have a drastic impact on your life, but just because you're falling in love with someone does not mean that you're gonna like suddenly no longer need therapy because of like trauma that you've held on to for literal years and years, like decades of your life. So I just overall could not get into this book. I could not get fully invested. And that's why I said, like, I do think that if the issues that I had with the book are things that like don't bug you personally as a reader, I do think that you might enjoy it. There were definitely things that I liked about it. First of all, I don't read enough romance to really accurately judge this, so take this with a grain of salt, but I would say that like there was a decent amount of smut and like the smut was good. Not great, but good. So if that's something that you want, go for it. I also did like that Daisy has a very unusual life goal, which I think is very endearing and sweet and shows how much empathy she has as a person and like what her dreams and goals in life are. I really, really like that. I'm not going to get into it. Like, you can read the book if you want to know. I feel like it's kind of a major spoiler, but I just really loved all the conversations about that in the book. And then I also loved that Daisy is completely unafraid to call out the love interest for his bullshit. Like, she is just like, this is how it is, either get on board or get gone, and I did really, really like that. This is not confirmed necessarily on page, but I do think that Daisy is a plus size woman. The book doesn't say like what size she is, but it does explicitly talk about how big her body is and stomach rolls and her thighs and things like that. So I do think she is a plus size woman, and I do like seeing that representation in a positive way in romance. So yeah, I definitely will not be continuing on in this series, but like I said, if what I've said about this book interests you, then like pick it up because you just might have better luck than I do. Next, I want to talk about the fantasy romance that I read on my Kindle, which was Gild? I think it's Gild. It's the first book in the Plated Prisoners series. I definitely had more success in this book. This is a King Midas retelling. The main character that you follow is one of King Midas's like concubines, and she is his most like prized concubine because she is like gold, like her entire, like all of her skin, all of her hair, like she's completely gold. A lot of people say like the first book in the series is kind of like a prequel book, and I haven't continued yet, so I don't know, but I mean, it is definitely like a lot of setup, but like it does kind of feel necessary. Overall, I gave the first book in this series 3 stars, and I do plan on continuing the series. I think that like by the end of the book, we have a pretty significant like fantasy plot going on. As someone who's like primarily a fantasy reader, I like that. I like my fantasy romance to be very, very plot heavy. But I will say, like, there were some weird things with this book. Now, here's the thing. You're in the main character's head, and I'm not even gonna lie, I've forgotten her name already. Like, it's fine. But you're in her head the entire time, so you're only getting this one viewpoint. And it's, like, weird because I don't necessarily know enough about the world to know like how King Midas got these concubines that he keeps, but the main character knew the king before he was the king, and they have this like shared history, and she fully like agrees to the position that she has. But it's weird because the book at times is like very pro sex work, because it seems like most of these concubines are actually not concubines, but really just sex workers. Again, I don't necessarily know enough of the world, but like the terms that they use that are like made for this book specifically is like they call them saddles, which I hate. I'm gonna be real, like I just hate that they call all of them saddles, but that's also the same term that they use if like you were going to a brothel in this world. So it seems that like they're just like elevated sex workers basically, and the main character is at times like very pro sex work, but like also very anti-sex work in her head. And here's the thing, I don't want to come down on it too hard yet. I can already tell that a lot of the themes within this series are going to be about like emotional abuse and manipulation and coming into your own power and like breaking free of your abuser and things like that. And all of that is really good. So like it is definitely possible that like the main character has like these biases about sex work where she feels like at times very for and at times very against because of her circumstances. It's very possible that as the series goes on, she will like work through that. But I did just want to mention it now because I just don't know where the series is gonna go, and it did feel weird and a bit whiplashy when I was reading, and like on one page she'd be like, this is real work and it's hard and like blah blah blah, and then the next page she'd be like, oh, I hate when they refer to me as a saddle, like I'm so special, I'm not like these other girls. And it could just be the character's journey, and that's totally fine. Like working through internalized misogyny is very, very important, and I think it's important that like stories reflect that self journey. But I just wanted to mention it in case that's not the case and it's just maybe some internalized misogyny coming out in the writing. I don't know yet. Also, I wanted to mention this because I did not know this going into the book, and like it is very significant. It is basically on like every other page, but the main character has like tentacles. Now, not like tentacles in the way a squid does, but like she has appendages that operate pretty similarly to like a monkey's tail, in that like they can hold things and grasp things and like they're articulate, but like they're not furry, and they're on her back. So like it's not a tail and it's not tentacles, but she's got like 20 of them, and it's weird. And she talks about them all the time and thinks about them, and she's like, she calls them her ribbons, and she's like, my ribbons caressed me to make me feel better. And it's like, baby girl, they are you. Like, it's weird because it's like, do you, if you're like in emotional turmoil, would you like be like, there, it's okay. But like she talks about them as if they're like separate from her with like their own thoughts, but like she's really just petting herself, and not in a kinky way, in a weird way, like she is a pet. And I don't know, I was taken aback. I did not expect that, and to be perfectly honest, I think people need to know about this specific thing going into it. Now, like, here's the thing. Within the world, this is, like, uncommon, but not, like, weird. Like, there are, like, quite a few people that have, like, these like vestigial traits physically, that it's like related to like the magic and like interbreeding of like human and like fae from like past generations. So it's not like this is like an anomaly within the world, but it's still weird, like the way it's talked about, and like it's weird. And then I did also want to mention that if you want to pick up this series, please check the content warnings. There is definitely significant content warnings around like sexual assault and also just like violence perpetrated against women. And I will say that in my opinion, it did feel like a little bit like baity to try to get like the reader like more invested and like kind of like build tension. I don't know. I don't really feel like it was entirely necessary, especially with like the frequency that it happened. We will see how the story progresses. From what I hear, most of the content warnings happen like early in the series, and then like progressively things get like less and less dramatic as it goes. This is a romance series, so things should get happier the further in the series you get. The next book I want to talk about is The Foxglove King, and this was also 2 stars. It's not good. Here's the thing, I don't really have any like issues with this book other than the fact that it is just so boring. I wish I would have DNF'd this book because it is so very, very boring. I'm sorry. Like, I don't have any issues with the characters, with the writing. I think the world building was good. The pacing was good. I was just bored. Yeah, that's all I have to say about this. Like, if you want to read it, go for it. I do think it is a well-written novel. I just, I was bored. And this is also one of those novels where, like, the main characters are just so dense about things happening around them. I understand that this like super special thing has not happened in like known history, so like you have no way to prepare for it, but I think Hannah Witten was like so heavy-handed in her foreshadowing that the characters end up just coming across like they're kind of morons. Because I'm like, how do you not figure this out? Like, how did you not figure out that this is, like, hello? It's literally right in front of your face. Hello? I will not be continuing with this series. I don't have to worry about purchasing the sequel that comes out this year. And again, I don't really recommend this book, so I'm sorry. Now, the last romance that I want to talk about is Court of Blood and Bindings. This is Faye Isles book 1. And you know what? Like, this is for the Court of Thorns and Roses girlies. Like, it really, really is. On the surface, there is a lot of similarities. Like, we follow a human girl who gets kidnapped when she is seen by a fae male because she is using magic and brought to the fairy court. And the reason is because there is this evil queen, and she has been ruling for thousands of years, and no one can take her out because whenever someone is born, she binds their powers like to herself, so no one can use magic against her. But this human girl has somehow like slipped through the cracks, so like her magic has not been bound, so she has the opportunity to take out the evil queen. Like, obviously we're seeing quite a few similarities here, but I will say that like I think the reading experience itself is quite different. Also, yeah, the fae have wings. Yes, the main love interest is very morally gray. I'm not doing a good job of selling this book. I'm really not, but I will say that like I really liked it. I gave this book 4 stars and I had a really, really good time reading it. I liked both the main character and the love interest. I thought that they were both interesting characters. I also like the magic system. In here you can like basically draw magic from colors. The different colors can like do different things, and you can use like different ratios of color to accomplish like varying degrees of things. I know like that's super vague. Like I said, I'm doing a really bad job pitching this book, but like bear with me. Just the idea of being able to draw color from your surroundings is very interesting because it dictates like, hey, do you wear this purple dress? Do you wear this yellow dress? Do you wear this black dress? Because like black has all of the colors in it. On the surface, the magic is very simple, but I think it like did make the world really, really interesting because like normally we don't pay attention to the colors that are all around us every day. And like I'm wearing a black t-shirt with a black hoodie with black leggings like I wear every single day. And you know what? Like this outfit is perfect for an assassin, but for me it's perfect for being a goblin. I always like it when fantasy books kind of like reframe why you would think about something and make something that for most of us in our daily life is a mundane decision, but like in this world it's a decision that is like vital potentially to you surviving the day. And so I did really like that. I thought the world building was also super interesting. There are a lot of different moving parts in here, and like in this first book, like we barely scratched the surface of this plot, and like so far in book 2 things are moving in a different direction and it's very interesting, and things are getting a lot more political. There's a lot more world building happening, and like I said in my Christmas book haul, Sarah J Maas does not own the idea of fae with big schling-schlongs. She just doesn't. I will say though that this book again does use the like male-female terminology a lot, and it's like, I get it, they're not human, but at the same time, I really hate it. I just really hate it. You don't have to, like, we get it. We understand that they're not human. You don't have to say male every other page. Like, I'm already with you. But 4 stars, and this is a really fun series so far. This was actually such a surprise to me, but my most successful reads of January were all young adult books. And honestly, I had kind of reached the point where I was like, am I too old for young adult? And here's the thing, I don't think that like there is really like a too old for young adult age, but I do think that sometimes you're just not gonna find the types of stories you want to read in that age range when you are a grown adult. But January has proved why I will never stop reading young adult novels, because oh my god, these last 3 books were so good. First up, I reread The Hunger Games and I loved it. I loved it more as an adult. Like, it's so good. Listen, I don't have to tell you what The Hunger Games is about. Like, we all know at this point, but I loved this book so much. It hit so much harder. I mean, it could be hitting so much harder because of everything that's happened in the last 3 years, and also, you know, the casual genocide happening, which is terrible. And it's like, how the hell is the United States supporting genocide right now? I don't know, but I can't stop it. I've already done everything I can. I'm in Ohio. It's a red state. And everything is terrible. And I'm just like, yeah, I see why The Hunger Games exists. I highly recommend this. Like, the anti-fascism, anti-capitalism themes within here, they hit so very hard now, while like the United States has like some of the biggest wealth discrepancies it's had in years. where we have people that are working 3 jobs and cannot afford to eat and pay their bills, and like it just hits. It hits so hard. I loved this. I cannot wait to continue with the series. I picked up on so many little things that I didn't before. Like, also, here's the thing. I'm gonna say this in like vague terminology in case you want to avoid Hunger Games spoilers because you want to read this book. Even though I think most of us already know how the story goes, but like, even when you think about the idea of like career tributes in here and how they're framed, and how like that is yet another tool that's used to like divide the common people, because like, of course those are the kids that are gonna win because they get more money, because they win because they get more money. But like, also those kids are like trained to win, but like also Cato in here, the character, one thing that I didn't pick up on, and I think the movies actually did a really good job of showing this, because like, I'm not here to argue that he didn't kill people and that like he didn't have like bursts of rage and stuff, but I just wanted to mention the fact that 2 separate times Cato went to stab somebody and they did not die. And it's like, even that is something that I didn't pick up on when I was younger. And it's like, even these career tributes, like, they don't want to kill. You know what I mean? Like, they're literally raised to be killers. And like, Cato has a hard time. And it's like, it's just like, you can't even really prove that he doesn't want to kill and that he's having a hard time existing within the Hunger Games. You can't really prove it because like, he's not on page enough. But I just think like 2 separate times where it's specifically mentioned that he stabbed someone and like they don't die, because I don't think he wanted to kill. I don't think he wanted to kill. That was heartbreaking to realize as a grown adult. And like, also how certain tributes are like sexualized in order to like sell them to sponsors as like a product, and like the conversations about that in regards to both fascism and capitalism. And it's like, these are children. These are literal children. Why are you trying to sexualize them to sell them as a product to other people? Listen, this book is fantastic and phenomenal. I love it. I gave it 5 stars. I liked it even more as an adult. You should read The Hunger Games. And yeah, that's all there is to say on it. Fantastic, phenomenal. Can't wait to read book 2. In the month of January, my book club started this duology, which I'm going to be honest, I don't know if this duology has like a name, but this is A Song of Race and Ruin, and this is a young adult fantasy series. It's dual perspective, and you follow this boy. His name is Malik, and he is a refugee entering this city, and I don't remember the city's name. It's right on the cusp of this magical celebration that happens every 50 years. Malik's sister gets kidnapped by this magical being. He's sort of a demon, sort of not a demon, and the demon says, if you want your sister back, you have to kill the princess, and you have to do it by the end of this competition. The other perspective in the novel is the princess, and her mother was actually just assassinated. However, they are hiding this news in order to be able to continue with this like once every 50 years magical celebration that they have going on. However, the princess finds this book of like old forbidden magic that has a rite of resurrection in it that would let her resurrect her mother, but it requires the heart of a king. So the princess sets up that the prize of this competition will be her hand in marriage. That way she will be able to like literally marry someone and kill them so that she has the heart of a king. And then the boy Malik, he manipulates his way into the competition as a way to get close to the princess so he can kill her. And like, listen, it's so good. It's so very good. I rated this 4 stars on Goodreads, but really it's a 4.5. Like, it just hits everything. Malik and Karina are both such interesting, dynamic, flawed, compelling characters. You feel for both of them. They both make mistakes, and you like just desperately feel for them when they make these mistakes, but like also their character flaws are built so well that like you understand why they make the mistakes. You feel so happy when they have like moments of like triumph and joy in here, and like it's just so good. Like, the plot is so well crafted and it's just tight. I don't feel like a single page was wasted in this entire novel. It's paced absolutely perfectly. It hits the perfect balance of having action and character development and also like plot, where it's like it hits everything exactly how it should. There's ancient magic, there's creatures involved. It's so good. Genuinely, I think that if you liked the Daevabad trilogy and you also enjoy reading YA, I think you would really like this series. I also loved the representation of anxiety in here. Malik has very severe anxiety because of the world and the magic. It's not like 100% realistic, because like if you read it, like you'll know what I mean, but like the actual symptoms of the anxiety, like for me personally, they hit so close to home. Like I really felt for him, because when he has a panic attack, it feels so very similar to like when I have a panic attack, and it's terrifying and traumatic. And I would say that like don't pick this up if you are having a lot of panic attacks at the moment, because it could potentially be triggering. But if you can, I highly recommend this book. Like, it's just so good. I cannot wait to read book 2 this month. It's so good. And then the final book that I want to talk about this month is Good Girl, Bad Blood. This is the second book in the Good Girl's Guide to Murder series. And you know what? This is even better. It's even better. I would say that like in terms of like the mystery of book 1 and book 2, now not like the actual mysteries themselves, they are like the mysteries and like the reveals are very different, but I would say that like if you liked the way the mystery was like plotted and constructed in book 1, then you will also like the mystery in this one. Like, it just like, this is what I want. This is what I want. If you know mystery novels that are constructed like this, please tell me, where are they? Because like, this is it. This is it. This is exactly what I want in a mystery novel. It is just so well constructed. The reveals come at like perfect times. I love it. I love it. It's so good. And like, where are the rest of the books that are like this? I don't know. I don't read very many like mystery novels, so I need you to find them for me and tell me so that I can read them, because this book is so good. I also think that you can tell that Holly Jackson has grown as an author, just like in terms of the writing, it's just improved. I also specifically just really loved Pip in this book, and I love being able to see her after everything that happened in book 1, and also the changes that she's going through in this book as well, and the internal conversations that she has with herself about ethics and morality and what this says about who she is as a person. And when I say what this says, like obviously I'm being vague to not spoil anything, but it's just so great. It's so excellent. And yeah, I loved it. This is 5 stars. This is like a missing person case in this one. Like, one of Pip's friend's older brothers disappears, and so like she's trying to find him. If you like mysteries, you should read this. I think it's excellent. Okay, so those are all the books that I read in January. And here's the thing. If you have seen my goals video for the year, you know that I have placed myself on restrictions from buying books. If you haven't seen that video, it's fine. But this year I am on restrictions when it comes to how many books I can buy because of the other goals that I have set for myself this year. So there aren't going to be any book hauls in 2024 for me, except for potentially like a Christmas book haul at the end of the year, because I always get a ton of books for Christmas. So in order to hold myself accountable on the internet, at the end of every wrap up, I'm also going to show you the books that came into my house during that same month. So in the month of January, 3 books came into my house. Here they are. The first is A Psalm of Storms and Silence. And this one you already know because of my Christmas book haul. I actually showed it off in there. There's a dog hair somewhere on my face. Ignore that. This is what I am reading this month for my book club. So I haven't actually started it as of yet, but this will get read this month. I also showed off this one in the Christmas book haul. This is the second book in the Fae Isles series, so this is also within what I am allowed to buy because it is me continuing a series. I am about this far through. I've only read a few pages since I showed this in my Christmas book haul, but I am still slowly making my way through it. I kind of got distracted by the Hunger Games, but I will probably finish this in February. And then the third book is actually Uprooted by Naomi Novik, and my friend Sarah sent this to me. She was reading this book and she got like halfway through and she was like, Jess needs this. And so I didn't even know this just showed up at my house in a package. It was gifted to me. However, it still is okay because I read The Foxglove King and I'm not continuing that series. I'm DNFing it. So that's one book. And I also read Good Girl Bad Blood and I already have the sequel to that, so I don't have to buy the sequel to that. So that's 2 books. So those 2 books means that I do get to add another book to my TBR because I read 2 from my physical TBR. And so that's what this book is. And yeah, I'm very excited, and I'm also very thankful to Sarah. Like, I can't believe she just thought of me and sent me a book. Like, it's so cute, and it makes me so happy to know that someone was thinking of me. So thank you, Sarah. Those are the 3 books that came into my house in the month of January, and those are the 7 books that I read in January. Thank you so much for spending time here with me today. I really appreciate it. If you liked this video, please consider subscribing. My next video should be, I hope, if I can get it edited, it should be the next video in my BookTube Knockout series. So that vlog is coming. I also have an unhaul coming. I hope that you stay safe this week. If you're living somewhere in the United States, I hope that you stay warm. It is cold here, and I'll see you in my next video. Goodbye.